Hello, all you hardcore boxing fans out there. How are you doing? It's Rusty from Pokey's Corner, the voice of hardcore boxing. Today I'm joined by the fans' favourite, Julian McGowan from Dewsbury. How are you doing, Julian?
I'm all right, Russell, mate. Yourself?
I'm sound, mate. Sound. I love doing these on a Saturday afternoon.
It's nice and chilled, isn't it? I bet you do. I'm causing you problems, mate. Fans' favourite. I like that. I'll take that one, mate.
You like that one, Julian? Yeah.
It's all right. Is that? I don't mind that.
Right. Let's blast off. Prepared for takeoff, Matt.
Let's do it.
It's the Blue Ribbon Division. Tommy Fury situation. Jake Paul. John Edges is in the mix now. Can he go to America or can't he go to America? What's your take on it, Julian?
Well, for me, and I'm guessing for most people, and I'm not calling anybody liars, I definitely am not. When you apply for an ESTA, you apply online. So I've been to the States, to the US and to Canada 25 times, maybe 30 times over the last 20 years on business and visiting relatives. So you apply for an ESTA online, you get notification for that application via email. You've been successful, you've been turned down. Now, I don't know if Tommy Fury already had an open ESTA and his status has changed or not. But what I do know is when you go to airports, it's not something that involves the British side of things or the British airports and the British authorities. So you check your own status via email and then you fly out there. And if there's an issue with your US status, you'd find out once you get to the borders because they associate your passport with your visa application number and they'll say there's been an issue. So in terms of Tommy Fury quoted, he says, I've been pulled by the Homeland Security. And they said that my ESTA's been denied. I just find it quite odd that someone from the Homeland Security would target him, come out and say to Tommy Fury and say, your ESTA's been denied. So he said that it's been denied. So I can only assume he's applied for it. Now, he would have known that himself by email. So I find it strange in terms of defending Tommy Fury. We'll talk about him all the time. He's a good kid. You can see he's a good, polite kid. I understand why he would not want to go into such a fight like that without his training team around him. I mean, he's boxed once before without John being there. His last fight was in the States. John wasn't there, and he got a win. I get it. I just think what we want as boxing fans, and this is where we get really frustrated, Russell, we want transparency. Either say, I'm not comfortable taking the fight in the US because I need my training team there, or just say, look, I'm not interested. I'm going to go in my own direction. But what we don't like messes in boxing because there are too many messes in boxing. And what is a messer? A messer is somebody who commits to doing something and then they bail out. And we've all got mates who you arrange a night out. Everybody be listening to this now going, yeah, I know who you're talking about. We've all got mates who arrange a night out and then one or two drop out. But they've no intention of going on that night out. But instead of just saying, I don't feel it, I'm not feeling it, I can't make it for whatever reason, I can't afford, I've got no money, and they give you this string of excuses all the time. Now, so Tommy Fury, he's had an injury first time around. Injuries happen. If that's the case, I get it. You can't train injured. Don't care who you're fighting, you've got to be in reasonable shape. Boxers always have niggles, but a broken rib and a bad viral infection, that's one thing. But this has come up again. And Tommy Fury quoting, yeah, I'm up for it, it's definitely on. Wouldn't you have known your legal or your visa status at that time? And not that I know the details of Tommy Fury, but what we know is a clean living lad. And to the best of anybody's knowledge, I know there's the MTK kind of shadow, but to the best of anybody's knowledge, there'd be no reason to decline a visa for Tommy Fury. Yeah. Don't get it, mate. I just don't get it. And I don't get a guy coming up to him telling him you can't travel to the States. He would have known that before he set off. You don't land at the airport and get someone from the UK Home Office telling you can't travel to a country. That's a US issue.
Yeah. What do you think to them people that go, the naysayers that are going to say, well, Tommy Fury knew his dad could never go to America?
Well, they've got a point, haven't they? Because John's said himself he can't travel to, I think he said 15 years or something, he can't go to the US. So John knew that. So don't accept a fight if you're not comfortable with your training team being around you. Listen, we might be not be wrong. We're kind of talking about what we know and what the facts are. That fight might happen, but it's looking likely that fight's not going to happen. You know, they're talking about different opponents. Eddie's throwing people in, you know, Ben Shalom. Everybody's throwing people in as an opponent for.
John Edges against Jake Paul.
I mean, who cares?
Sam Jones it was.
Yeah, Sam Jones. Sorry.
And getting back to Julian, that was just point. Getting back to John Fury's American ban, he's same as me, Section 18 on your record, so it's life off.
So you can't travel to the States, yeah. So John Fury can't travel. Tommy Fury knew that. He's already boxed abroad without his dad being there. If you're not comfortable with the fight, just don't do it. But what becomes boring is the pantomime. The pantomime's boring.
You know, in April, when this MTK thing come out and they said, look, you know, the 600 people are going to be banned who are linked to MTK, and apparently 300 of them are boxing people. Now, Tommy Fury went on the list because he went to America in May, didn't he? Beginning of May. We saw it online, didn't we?
He's been there, yeah.
So what's changed between then and June? I don't understand, because he's never been in trouble. He's a clean cut kid, isn't he, and all that. Is it because he's a Fury, do you think? They're picking on him?
Well, they weren't picking on him when he was on holiday in Miami, were they? They weren't picking on him. I mean, this MTK thing, I know it's since April, obviously they've talked about the numbers of people who can't travel, but this has been bubbling for so long now, hasn't it? All these associated people with MTK. It's been going on for so long now. You just know, before you commit to a fight like that, and I think it was August the fight, you know this stuff. Your management knows this stuff. You check this stuff out. You don't suddenly decide to just jump in a car, go to Heathrow, say, I'll do a quick press conference. I'm going to jump on a plane. And some guy wearing a high vis just tapped me on the shoulder and says, sorry, pal, you can't go to the States. It makes absolutely no sense. And this is where people struggle with with boxing and with the Furies. And, you know, I've said before, I'm a
You mean because we don't know what to believe anymore? Is that what you're trying to say? Because I'm like that.
Well, listen, simple question for you. Do you think Tyson Fury will fight again?
Yeah, I've heard
everybody does. I bet if you asked his kids and Paris, his wife, and everybody around him, would say that Tyson Fury was.
It'd be a fool not to in this era, wouldn't it? He could be leaving 300 million on the table. I don't know about 500 million, but he could be leaving 300 million on the table. That sets generations up of his family, so that's what he wanted, isn't it? So he retires every fight. He's been retiring since his debut.
And that's the thing for me with Tyson Fury. The one thing what's always struck me about Tyson and his dad, John, is the historians, whenever they talk about boxing, they talk about heavyweight boxing. They know their history in heavyweight boxing.
Of course he does.
He wants a legacy. He knows to go down as a great fighter, he has to have a legacy. It's hardly the kind of the swan song, is it? Knocking Dillian White out. It's not something that you're going to go down with the
handpicked. They're handpicked opponents, aren't they? Handpicked.
Absolutely. So I think Tyson Fury at 80-85% could clean these guys up.
Two on the same night if he wanted to. Drew Joshua, and he could probably do somebody else out of the top 10.
Ruiz. It's a good point, is that because George Foreman did that one night, didn't he? Five guys.
Knocked them all out, didn't he?
Yeah, and they weren't dreadful opposition. Some of those guys were half decent fighters.
Top 30 guys.
Yeah, Tyson Fury could probably beat 3 or 4 of the top 10 heavyweights on the same night. Give him 20 minutes in between, prize fighter style. I think that's not unusual, or that's not unlikely to say he couldn't do that. So Tyson, I think boxing needs you. Clean up.
Undisputed. Well, undisputed, even if it's for one fight, that's all we want.
Of course you do. Get the unified belt, and then you can say that you've been undisputed, just like Lennox, just like Ali, and just like all those great fighters.
All right then. Carl Froch, the Cobra, 45 today. Many happy returns.
Absolutely.
I wish I would have penny behind him. We spoke about a few, and he's 500 million if he's going to come back. That's brassing yourself off a little bit, isn't it? Eddie Hearn, did we speak about Eddie Hearn doing we didn't. Eddie Hearn's putting KSI in when that Ababius or something, whatever he's called, and he's got a series of crossover fights between YouTubers and boxers coming up in the next 12 months. What do you think to that?
Well, he might as well. I mean, it's become that cringe sport that Peter Fury talks about, hasn't it, really? And, you know, I think I've said before that I was so disappointed and shocked when they announced the Conor McGregor-Floyd Mayweather fight. I thought, no, this won't happen. One of the great fighters of our generation is not really going to fight a debutant and put that down as a real fight. And he did. And then anything that happens now, even if it's professional boxing or just boxing associated, you know, we had Billy Joe Saunders fighting on a KSI undercard. I think it was one of the Paul brothers who might have boxed. I can't remember. And it's just dreadful. So Eddie will do what Eddie does. He'll do anything he can to make money. Eddie Hearn he might already be a billionaire, he might not. But if Eddie Hearn was a billionaire, it won't be enough for him. He'd want 2 billion, then he'd want 5 billion, then he'd want to be the richest man in the world. And, you know, nothing's ever enough for them. So they'll actually do anything. They'll dance with the devil and do anything for a dime, true capitalist. And these things, I don't know some of these people, by the way. I've heard of KSI. I've heard of him because my daughter Daisy went to watch him fight some guy.
You did you?
She did. I can't remember the guy. Joe Weller.
Did you ground her?
I wasn't happy. I tried to sit down and have a little conversation with her. For her birthday present, she goes, me and my mate want to go see, I think it's KSI and Joe Weller. Is that? It might be Manchester or London, I forget, but she went with a mate and a mate's mum. And I was like, wow. And she absolutely loved it. And then I thought, oh, well, at least that, you know, that thing that people say that brings new people to boxing. It didn't bring Daisy to boxing.
It didn't, did it? What's happened? But is boxing thriving because of KSI?
No, Daisy's never watched another fight in her life. She's no interest.
But they will put the show on Dip the Pockets though, didn't they?
Yeah, and that's the thing, is Eddie will do anything. You know, what we're going to have next? Naked boxing? Or we're going to have, you know, Ebony Bridges, mud wrestling?
I know 2 women are working a chippy who've had a fallout and they're up for getting at it.
Well, that's the thing, is everybody's calling everybody out now out there. And I've said before, I've got no issue, as long as people are fit and safe, boxing, got no issue at all. What I have an issue when it's prime time and people are charging you money for it. That's what I have an issue with.
All right. Joe Joyce, Joe Parker, the 2 Joes. Bricktop says he's not going to go on Sky now that Parker's signed with Sky. So is this a case of promoters wanted to not work with each other? I mean, what's going on here? Where we are, see, we've got all these promoters, Ben Shalom, Eddie Hearn, Bricktop. None of them are working with each other, are they?
Well, what they don't have is the boxer's best interests at heart.
It's getting worse, isn't it? We've gone from a Cold War with 2 big promoters to now 3.
Yeah, it's everybody's freezing everybody out, and they've all got their own little groups. I've got my light heavyweights, you've got your light heavyweights, and you've got yours. There's never going to be any kind of crossover, and I don't want to work with you to promote my fighter or to develop my fighter. I just don't want to work with you. I think Eddie Hearn said the same about Frank, didn't he? He said, there's a promoter out there who won't work with me because he thinks I'm a prick. He hates me that much. He didn't name Warren, but we know what he's talking about. And wow, I mean, I've worked with people in boxing, not on a large level, but who I probably didn't want to, because it was the best thing for the fighter and it was the best thing for their career. But people just aren't prepared to do that. It's all about ego, and you've got the trainers, the managers now, and the promoters who have got bigger egos than the fighters. It's nuts.
Okay. Max Imbus Jenkins, your heavyweight charge, 2-1-0, age 34. What next? Is the division on notice?
The division's not on notice just yet. What's next for Max is a few more easy fights. There's certain things I need him to be able to do before he even thinks about fighting a journeyman at 4-round level in the UK. I'm dead open about that. I'm dead honest. And he listens. We had a little conversation, bless him, and says, no more call outs, Max. No more call outs. I think he does it tongue in cheek, to be honest. But I says the same thing that grates me about Conor Ben, name association. I don't want you to start calling people out. Worry about yourself. You need to get yourself into better shape. You've already dropped a couple of stones. Not enough, mate. You're still way too heavy. He knows this. I want to see a gradual loss of another 1.5 stones at least. Get 3 or 4 more Estonian taxi drivers lined up for him. And I want to see him in a hard 4-rounder. Even some of these kids, sometimes they lack a little bit of ambition, they bail out. I want to see him in a hard 4-rounder. There's a kid who beat Max, who is not great, but Max really, it took him a round and a half to figure out it was southpaw.
Max?
So Max didn't even, he kept realizing the guy's jabbing over my jab. I watched the video of it. I wasn't there with him at the time.
Max, southpaws lead with the right. Orthodox, left. Left, right. We know a song about that, don't we?
Yeah, well, I think he was trying to figure out why his jab was ineffective. His jab was ineffective, but
it was because everything's opposite, isn't it?
The stand on your foot, the drift off to your right.
Is that the one he got beaten?
Yeah. To be fair, once he'd figured him out, the 3rd round and 4th round, they were kind of a little bit tighter.
He ran, but he was too late then, wasn't it? To a 4-rounder.
He kind of figured him out. So I said to him, look, we can't even think about even a UK novice level until we beat that guy again. Let's have a couple more guys who get a few rounds in. Let's get some more weight off. Let's reverse that loss. If we reverse the loss, let's see if there's any kind of.
I'm laughing here because I'm just thinking about Max getting in there and Bloke not being an orthodox. Because all they were going on about was he's an orthodox, and all that homework, you give him everything. He's gone out there. And last thing I said, well, Max, don't let him switch opponent on you, because what they do out there, they'll bring a left-hander in, and you've trained for a right-hander. So I can imagine him getting in the ring and thinking, because he's like, what's going on here?
Honestly,
sorry, mate.
Southpaw heavyweights are like rocking horse shit, and all
they are, mate. To be fair, they are, mate. They are.
And Max has had 3 out of 3. It's absolutely. Even the last guy was switching. I'm not going to say it was switching like Livingston Bramble. I'm just going to say it was all over the place.
You know what we could call Max? The Southpawinator.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's they used to call Roger Mayweather the Mexican assassin, didn't he? Because he used to knock out all these Mexican fighters. But Max can wipe out the southpaw. So he's got a wrong to put right. His attitude's good. He's got some hard sessions coming up and some hard sparring and some tough realization. And you know, the three of us, we all have a chat, don't we? We say, Max, if you get to a certain point that we realize it's not going to happen for you, do something else with your life, and he will do.
Yeah, he's doing what he wants to do, isn't he?
He's a good kid.
Listen, he puts effort in. My only argument with him, and I'm always riveting, he's always eating every time I see him. He's popping something in his mouth. He's like Roland from Grange Hill.
Yeah, Roland Browning. Yeah,
Roland Browning. Till Gripper got him. Come here, you Browning.
That's what I used to call Sykes. You know, I used to call Sykes Rolly.
Why?
Because he was, even though he was rich, shredded with Sykes, he would roast to you, little fat fucker. He'd just be like, put weight on him between sessions and stuff. We used to stand him on the scales. So we always called him Rolly. And I still call him Rolly now and again when I see him. Say, how you doing, Rolly? And it kind of stuck. Obviously, Sykes was he's in better condition than me. I was only jealous, mate.
We had them all after him, didn't he, Sykes, at one point?
Yeah, he certainly
all
did.
Women. Bob Arum. He's saying he's helping. He's come out and said he's helping FBI with inquiries, and God knows who else we don't know. I mean, has this been something he's been doing years? Because do you remember that 1984 situation with IBF where there were Bob Lee, Don King, Kushner, Arum? They all ended up getting nicked, didn't they?
Yeah, Cedric Kushner. They were paying cash for rankings, weren't they?
100 grand a time. And he got shafted in Kushner, big time.
Yeah, he did, yeah.
So basically, when people talk about corruption, well, they need to go have a look at Arum, don't they? Who worked for IRS at one point before he started being a promoter. He only got in boxing because he seen what money were around, didn't he?
Absolutely.
Did you know that? Did you know
That's why a
that?
lot of them. He was a lawyer, wasn't he, or he was an accountant or something? Yeah.
If he lived around here, I'd put him in a Shackleton IT chair and I'd shut the door.
Put him in a
Right.
restaurant.
Billy Joe, is he going to come back? Yes or no? I keep hearing he is and all that, but I'm hearing it's half-hearted. So, what do you think?
For me, for Billy Joe, what's going to bring him back is a lot of cash. And right now, I don't see a great demand for Billy Joe to come back. It's the only thing that would motivate him to come back and to change his lifestyle, actually, because he's probably happy playing with the kids, driving around, looking after his properties. He's worth a few quid, is Billy Joe, isn't he? But it's like Larry Holmes once said, another 3 million didn't harm anybody. So they'd have to offer him a lot of cash.
Oh, he used to say Larry Holmes.
Yeah, Holmes, when he took fights, when he was getting old, he says, listen, another 2 or 3 million doesn't hurt anybody. Because Holmes was total cash, wasn't he? Larry Holmes was all, he owned property in Eastern Pennsylvania. And I think Billy Joe Saunders.
He sold courthouse, he owned courthouse, didn't he?
Oh, Larry Holmes, yeah.
He sold it to government, didn't he?
Yeah, welcome to Eastern Pennsylvania, home of Larry Holmes, and he just owns so much property in there. And I think Billy Joe Saunders, I'm not suggesting he's got that kind of wealth, but they need a lot of money to get that guy to drop 4 or 5 stone, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
Are you bothered about seeing him again, truthfully?
No. Well,
No,
I would like to see. I don't like to see waste his talent, but I don't think he could get back. But we keep talking about that David Lemieux fight. That's his best performance, but it was tailor-made for him. It was 4 years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, David Lemieux was a face first kind of one punch at a time brawler. It wasn't great, was he?
What do you think to Nathan Gorman?
Nathan Gorman, I caught up with his fight late on Channel 5. I was about a week late watching it. Gorman's he's a really good fighter, isn't he? He's got some good skills. He's got fast hands. It's not often you see heavyweights put punches together like that. He's got real ring craft. I guess it's one thing having quick hands, knocking over guys like that, but it's another thing when it's coming back at you, hasn't it? And we saw that with Dubois. When it didn't work after 2 or 3 rounds, he just imploded. So he's too heavy, just like Max. He's way too heavy. I struggle looking at professional heavyweights who are physically look like that. I just think, but then again, the best heavyweight in the world's not exactly Ken Norton, is he? You know, Fury's not in exactly great condition. But Gorman, I think if he commits himself, he'll never be, I don't think he'll ever be a world champion or a top 5 fighter, but he could certainly have a decent career at British and European level.
Yeah, I do. I think he wins the British.
Yeah, 100%.
I think the rest of it's up to him then, isn't
it?
Yeah. Steve Gray, performance in the English middleweight title. 10-round fight. He's 6 rounds apart from the other 2 judges who got it bang on. What did you think was going on there? If that ain't an alarm bell, yet again, his 5th of the year. Why is this guy still at border control? He's now leading the pack with huge mistakes. What's going on? Is he the new Terry O'Connor?
He's got to be, hasn't he?
Is he the new Terry?
It's all the time, isn't it? I mean,
it's the same old people, isn't it?
There are 10 rounds. That English title fight, it was competitive, but the rounds, Boxer A won against Boxer B. You could see he won 7 rounds of those 10 rounds. And when you hear that split decision and you just see the names of the judges, you just roll your eyes. Now, Steve Gray, I have an issue sometimes as well, because if you're a referee, and obviously on the circuit, you know, if it's 4 rounders, 6 rounders, the referees and scores the fight. You can't do both, can you? You're either watching out for fouls and you're watching the flow of the fight and you're diligent, or you're scoring the fight. How can you do both? So I think if Steve Gray is a good referee, stick to that, because he's clearly not a good judge, and that's the problem that we've got.
Yeah. Do you think he's corrupt, or do you think he's incompetent?
No, I just think he can't score a fight. I think one of the problems we have, though, and I have said this before, I think it's an unconscious bias. I would never call anybody corrupt. I think what happens is they know who the ticket seller is and who's expected to win that fight. And also sometimes when you get a guy who's a favourite to win, you sometimes subconsciously think he's doing better than he is. So on a close round, I think they lean towards the ticket seller and the guy who's favoured to win. And I think corrupt's a strong word, but do you know what? It's like the Jack Catterall fight. Whether it's corrupt or whether it's not, it doesn't matter. You're still shafting somebody. The outcome is just the same, isn't it? It's like, this sounds silly, but it's like manslaughter and murder. The outcomes, there's somebody gets killed. And Steve Gray, whether he's corrupt, which I don't think he is, whether he's a poor judge, whether he's just tired and he's on the circuit every night and he's just knackered, I don't know. But what I do know is you get it wrong once, that happens. You get it wrong twice, we have to start looking at you. But when every other week you're turning in a shit scorecard, you got to be gone from scoring fights. Keep him as a referee, not a problem.
Whatever money you've had, Steve Gray, consider it severance pay. Take the train, get out of Dodge. Go now, while you still can.
100%.
Before Emperor Michael finds you.
Where is Emperor Michael?
I don't know, mate.
I hope he's okay, mate. He's a mixed up young kid, and I hope he's all right.
He's a bit tied up at the moment.
Yeah.
Not what to do with me. Matchroom fire sale. They're trying to sell it, aren't they? There's a quarter of it. I mean, if it were doing that good, why would they try and sell it? What do you think to that?
Well, we know that, as we said earlier, all they care about is money. That's all they care about. True capitalists. Hey, they've created their own wealth, absolutely fine. But once you get, and I've experienced this before, I've seen this in business, once you get a really lucrative company and it kind of peaks, and then they start to offload shares from that business, you start to think, what do they know that we don't know?
Well, they know something, don't they? Because I know a lot about boxing statistics and where it's heading, because I've showed you it, haven't I?
Yeah, you have, yeah.
Now, Barry Hearn, when he took over Leighton Orient, he got it for free, you know that, don't you?
Yeah.
He took the debt on, didn't he? $500,000. When he sold it, I don't know, 20 years later, they sold it for millions. And he kept saying that he was losing $1 million a year. So all them years he had it, and he only took back what he put in. Not true. What happens is when you've got various businesses, and he will know this because he was youngest chartered accountant at the beginning of the 1970s. When people lose money on sporting ventures and they've got businesses, they just offset it against the tax, mate. That's what happens. That's what's all these people, losing a fortune. No, you're not, because you've got other wealthy businesses. They have. Now, don't forget, Barry Hearn is a capitalized. He's a sharp individual, somebody I admire. Now, do I admire what he's done? He's come from now. Now, he built on 3 corners of the ground at Leighton Orient, and he had to wait many years in between, because he had it about 20 years. When he couldn't build on the 4th, sold the club.
Yeah.
Sold the club. So all that about I've supported them all my life. No. I ain't buying any of that. So why would you sell 90% of that club if it's your life? Yeah. Because they couldn't rinse any more money out of it. And what did they try and do? Then they tried to have a ground share with West Ham, didn't they? Well, that'd have been good. He could have sold full rest it ground then, couldn't he?
It all, couldn't he?
Here you go. But you've got to give him credit for getting in there and seeing an opportunity, because I wouldn't have thought about that. I'd have been thinking, how do you run a football club? I wouldn't have been thinking of building on it. I'm not a builder.
Yeah, I wouldn't think about that. I've missed opportunities over years to make a few quid, and I'm not geared like that. I've no issue with the Hearns. The Hearns are grafters, aren't they? The
grafters, mate. They're up in the morning and they're thinking till midnight.
Yep, no issue with them earning money within the rules of the game. Absolutely fine.
I've DAZN asked them to put money in to pot, because why are they trying to raise all this money?
Yeah, possibly. They're definitely trying to raise some cash out there, and people will invest in Matchroom because it's
because they work hard, don't they? They're not going to torpedo other 75%, are they?
No.
So okay,
there's something in it.
Broner, Algieri, Vargas, Garcia, Brook, Khan, 6 fighters there, all linked with Conor Ben's Twitter and Instagram in the last 6 months. We've not fought any of them. Oh no, he has Algieri. Is it all Vargas? No, Algieri, Vargas, isn't it? Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, they dragged him.
So the other 4 is not fought yet. But Garcia's retired, and I don't know. I mean, I want to see Conor Benn just have a fight in England with somebody for a British title, and let's get behind him if he wins. I could get behind him and say, you know what, he's won a British. I'm behind him now. Look at Max Hughes. They've all gone back. Eggington and all that. They get beat. They go back, don't they? They go again. They don't want to lose their own. These other kids just bite on the gummy shields, don't they?
Yeah.
And they want it easy all the time. I don't mind if he's winning British titles and beating domestic kids and giving it the big one. But I don't want to see him giving it this, bruv, 24 carat, bruv. Look at my steering wheel, bruv. I don't want to see all that. Just call me crusher. Stop being a tool. I don't want to see all that. I want to see him in with somebody who can fight, who's got a heartbeat. Miles away there, man. My eyes are going. You want to click onto the next link, kid?
Will do, mate.